Okay, so this time we need to save a structured file. So I'm going to use the same procedure, copy and paste it and edit it. So let's copy that procedure and then edit it. And change it to same go over 2. Now the difference here is that instead of the game being a text, the save game being a text file, it needs to be a structured file. So we actually need this to be a file of a particular structure. Now the first thing we need to do is to go and create that structure. So I'm just going to go to the top of the program, and you can see I've done it here. Okay, so what I need to have is I need to have a structure called a record, which contains the board and which contains whose turn it is. Now I'm going to package all those together, those two things together, into what's called a record. Now a record can have the same different variables inside it, and we can access them using one name, and I'll show you how that works. But this is a record here, so I've called my record T-game, and it's got the board in it, and it's got whose turn is it, whose turn as a character. Notice that board has got the data type T-board. So let's go back to the save game 02. So now here on save game 02, my variable, I can use that record structure. So I'm going to say it's a file of T-game. Okay, it's a file of T-game. So that means when the file is saved, it will have that structure. So it will have a board element and it will have whose turn element. Okay, rather than writing it as a text file in each line, we can just save the board. Now we need a variable with the same structure to copy the data into before we write it to the file. So I'm going to make a game variable, and I'm going to say it's got the game T-game structure. So that's that. Okay, the rest of it is going to be the same. So the rank number and the file number, we still might need those, but that's okay there. So there's the game. Now the assign file, again, I'm just going to change the name of the file. That's all the difference is with a DAT file or with a text file. It's just a name, but it signifies to us that it's a particular data structure. We're still going to rewrite because we're opening it to write to it. Now what we don't need to happen is we don't need to loop through the whole array and write it out, because that's already in the board. That's the point of having a structured file. So I'm going to get rid of that. But I need to have a variable which has the data in it. So I'm going to say add data to game variable. I can spell. And then that, my game. So I'm going to put into the board part of the game variable. So that's the board part. I'm going to put the board. Okay, so there it is. I'm going to put the board into the board part of the game variable, and into the whose turn part of the game variable I'm going to put the variable whose turn. The character will go into there. So remember, the game is a T game, it's got a structure, it's got a board part and it's got a whose turn part, and I put the game board here, the board that was being passed through, I put it into the game variable, and I put whose turn into the game variable. Now what I can do is I can just save the whole thing in one go by saying that. I can put game, write it to the file, and it writes all of this together. It's joined together as a record. The file has got that structure, and that's how we save to a structured file, and that's done.